I can hear you. Can you hear me? Very good. I can still hear you. I'm still here.
Well, yes, I can. Hello, how are you guys doing? I think you need to go out. I couldn't unmute, and I left and came back, and then it worked. So I guess that's the thing.
Uh, For those that we can't hear, or yes,
I can.
Hi, I'm Mark Nectis. I'm a multi-award-winning innovator. I have introduced many companies to the latest and greatest. That started, for instance, with Nokia Networks and cloud computing in 2009. at Ubuntu, I launched their IoT business and worked together with the blockchain community. I was Chief Innovation Officer for Legal in General, where I also launched multiple award-winning products. Last year, I have been a fractional executive, initially doing mostly Web3, but now very much doing AI. And I'm also about to open source an agentic AI platform that will be called GreenTech, from agentic and green.
Thank you very much, Martin. Let's try Mario.
Thanks, Anton. Hello, everyone. My name is Mario Tomic. I'm Croatian, living in Spain, in Valencia. I'm fractional CTO for startups and scale-ups. Basically, they reach out to me either when they have a problem they don't know how to solve. It's usually problem with team, with velocity, with budgets, with quality, or when they want to build a product from 0 to 1 and they don't know how to go about it. I mostly work with non-technical founders, and over the years I helped many startups, go from 0 to 1, or to grow to the point of where they can bring full-time CTO on board. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Mario. Jagdeep, would you like to try and unmute now?
Yeah, hi. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can at last. Thank you very much for
Okay,
this.
great, no problem. I was going to say, in terms of my experience and background, there's probably too much to speak about, so I'll put in my LinkedIn profile on the chat. Very briefly, 25 plus years across multiple industries, sectors, geographies, verticals, and more recently been working with a few organizations in the health tech AI space, also acting as a fractional CTO for a family office in the Middle East. In terms of my background, in terms of what I do, I mainly work with C-level, board-level members of various organizations, and my main role is to get them to a good place. This could be anything from improving total cost of operations, increasing revenue, reducing excess spend, innovation, and more recently, kind of working with a lot of AI products and services, including private LLMs, etc. I also run my own health tech startup as well in the UK, which is focused around sports and education as well, and currently doing some advisory work as well for a few founders. So that's myself, and I'm based in the UK.
Well, thank you very much to all three of you. I guess I didn't introduce myself, did I? My name's Anton Kool. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups and accelerators. And lately, especially, I've been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and their assessments. And I guess this is it now. For some reason, Diana can't join us. What we're going to do now, maybe, perhaps some do's and don'ts. What are some of the main do's and don'ts that you gentlemen see when it comes to early stage building of your product and tech? Perhaps if we can start with Martin, then Mario, then Jagdeep, please.
So you should talk about the problem you're trying to solve with anybody that wants to listen, because you're in learning mode. You need to understand really what the problem is about, what all the different facets are, and then work with the people that have the problem on solutions, understand how you can very quickly get to many of those. And that's very important, because building and they will come is not what you're supposed to do. That just gets you into trouble. You waste a lot of time and effort. You need to be talking about what you're building with people to validate that it really solves a problem.
Mario, and then Jagdeep.
Yeah, so it's hard not to repeat what Martin just said, but and we keep repeating it every week, I guess, around necessity to start selling very early and start selling before building. It's kind of counterintuitive. Maybe you need to build your product first, then to sell it. But in tech sector, especially nowadays, rules are a little bit different. So you sell it and then you build it, or you sell it, you build it as you're selling it. And that's one thing. But when it comes to building, really, there's a lot of things going on around AI, and a lot of discussion on how it can improve productivity, how you could get much faster than it was before. Honestly, I don't see it. I have AI embedded in all the teams that I work with. I see improvements. Things are getting faster. You can do it, easy stuff much faster. But I don't see like drastical change in way how we build software, unfortunately. And it will still take time. It will still take more time than you think it would take, and it will still cost you more money than you think it would cost you. So those things you probably want to factor in as you planning for budgets and for money.
Thank you, Mario. Yes,
Yeah, so a don't is do not jump into tech straight away, and do not go for the fancy stuff straight away. That's definitely a no. In many cases, people are very excited about tech, and tech is usually the last thing that should be discussed and done. It's the proposition that's very important. And related to that, a do is don't underestimate a good UX UI. Either get somebody on board, an expert, and also validate your UX UI. You might have the most compelling product or service, but if it's difficult to actually interact with that particular service and product, and it's not intuitive, it's not slick, it's not good, then you will have a challenge in terms of adoption. So those are my do's and don'ts.
well, thank you very much to all three of you for that. Quick reminder to those of you that are on the live streams, whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, just remember we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'd need to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and the quickest way to join is either through the links that should be on all those live streams, or if you simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, look for today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 153. You click join. It's a quick registration. That gets you onto our call here on Microsoft Teams. Well, you get an email with that link, and then you can join us here. Once you're here, then you can drop your question in the chat, and we'll give you the mic to ask our team. We're only going to be here now for the next 41 minutes, so I would appreciate it if you don't leave it for last second, because then we'll run out of time. But we maybe can go to some quick questions. By the way, we're taking questions on how to build your product in tech, so whether it's product roadmaps or design, prototype, testing, low to no code, automation, landing pages, launching your MVP, or anything in between or beyond. This is the place to be. The first question is from a founder, a fintech founder in Birmingham. They're pre-seed, and he's got a financial background. The problem is that developing an app that provides okay, so that's the problem he's solving. Okay, we're developing an app that provides tailored financial advice for first-time home buyers. The question I have is that our target users are often overwhelmed by the home buying process. Should we prioritize building an easy-to-navigate interface with guided advice, or focus on providing comprehensive financial tools? And two, how do we ensure that we maintain user engagement whilst offering valuable financial education? So, since Jagdeep is or was unmuted, maybe, or was it Mario? Mario, I think, is unmuted. Mario, do you want to go first, and then we can go to Jagdeep and then Martin, please?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting how oftentimes we have product questions on those calls here, and that kind of proves my point that technology is rarely a problem anymore, right? So this is like, okay, are we building A or B, right? And it's not how do we build A or B, and I think that's fair, and that's how it's supposed to be. And the question is, it depends really, and that's the one thing that founder needs to be able to provide. That's like that unique thing that consultant cannot maybe help you, right? Consultant can tell you, I can help you build A or B, right? And I can, find you guys, build your stack, and do all those things because it's known how to do it, right? But should you do A or B? Should you kind of build easy to use tool, or should be this other thing? That's where founders understanding of the market, understanding of that secret sauce of success is coming in, right? And it's very hard to give external advice about it without just it can be whatever, really. It can be either of those, and nobody really know, right? And once you have that, then from there it's easy. From there, just kind of building it and getting it out there. But then I think this founder pointed to the core of the problem with success of the any new startup is, do you have that thing that just make changes reality of customers, right? And I think that thing exists either if this customers goes to do like easy to navigate interface for advice or whatever, or this financial tool. I think there is value in both of them, right? But depending how founder understands the market, how he or she feels about that specific problem they're solving, they need to follow their hunch and then obviously validate it with customers and go either way. And that's very hard advice to give because it fundamentally alters the that product, So I don't think anyone honestly can give it without just talking whatever. That's my 2 cents on it.
Jagdeep?
Yeah, so I think I would say regardless of what you do, how you do things, you should always prioritize a good, easy to navigate interface, and where possible with guided advice. So I think that goes without saying. You do need that inevitably. I think the second part is also drip feed the knowledge in, because you're dealing with a very complex process, and having gone into this and delivered a few fintech propositions myself, you're also dealing with an audience that needs to be taught how to do things in a slick way. The problem with home buying in the UK especially is that it's not fully a digital process. There's also physical aspects such as conveyancing, etc. And you can't always manage certain processes that are outside of a digital workflow. So I think it's very important to make sure that you do offer that guide. You do offer aspects such as overlays, contextual advice around, you can use knowledge bases with AI, etc. So that's kind of two elements I'd look at. The main thing also is introduce smart education. So the idea is that you can almost look at micro learning, offer modules where people can essentially understand step by step what it means to actually procure a property, or whether it's outright buys or whether it's mortgages, etc. You're dealing with a very complex ecosystem because it's not just the home buying, it's also the fact that you have to engage with many third parties, lawyers, etc. as well. So how does somebody manage that process? Depending on what your proposition is, I would say you need to map that kind of user journey out, map out what it takes to actually make this happen. But the interface is very important. The education is very important. That also means that you can retain your customers as well. Typically, one way to do this is also get real-time feedback when you're working with your focus group, assuming you have one. You may even want to start looking at introducing some tools like you mentioned earlier, things like affordability calculators, etc. So that's very important, and you may even want to consider gamifying the process as well, and look at maybe loyalty and reward schemes if people kind of go through this process easier or kind of in a more difficult manner. So those are a few aspects I can kind of give some guidance on. Having built a couple of these in the UK and overseas, feel free to reach out if you need more advice.
Thank you, Jagdeep. And last but not least, Martin, please.
So I would follow KISS. Keep it simple and stupid, in the sense that, like, if first-time buyers are already overwhelmed, then giving them something easy to navigate with guided advice will help them more than overwhelming them with like all potential financial tools. So if your user looks for something easy, focus on that first. And making something easy is sometimes very, very hard. And then how to keep on engaging them. Well, you have to solve real problems, and the home buying process is a stepwise process. So what you need to do is understand each stage, and then like basically guide them through each stage so they come back and back and back until the whole process is over. Now, the biggest problem is probably not have them come back. The biggest problem is they buy their home and then the process is over, and probably you don't see them anymore for the next 10 years. So you need to have something more viral in there, otherwise it will be very costly. So I would say that like you probably need to work with estate agents that can send it to buyers, or sellers that like can send it to buyers, or banks that like give loans. So there needs to be something that like simplifies people that like aren't familiar with it to come to you every time.
Well, thank you very much to all three of you. That is amazing. We'll now go on to another question. Where is it? I've posted that in the chat, but I'm going to read it out loud for those of you tuning in via the live stream. Just a quick reminder, we are unable to monitor your questions on the live stream. So if you do want to ask our panel anything, you'd have to join us here live on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and you can do that via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Once you get there, you find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 153. You click join, quick registration, gets you a link to your email. You click on that link, join us here in Microsoft Teams, then you can drop your question in the chat and I'll give you the mic to ask the panelists. And obviously the dropping of the question can work for those of you that are already here on Microsoft Teams too. So I'm a founder in York, building a marketplace. Building a marketplace for sustainable fashion. We want a consistent process to gather user feedback on new features, but struggle with getting responses from users. What are some effective low-cost ways to set up feedback loops that engage users and provide actionable insights for improving our platform? Jagdeep, Martin, and then Mario, please.
Yeah, there's actually a ton of them, but without understanding what your actual proposition is and kind of going into the details of what you're offering and how you're offering it, whether it's an app, it's whether it's a website, etc. I think you probably need to hone that, but kind of some generic ones you might want to look at. Micro surveys. So every now and then.
Shall we assume they're building an app as well as a
that's
website?
That's kind of my assumption as well. So yes, yeah. And yeah, so one would be kind of looking at micro surveys, and these are kind of very short. The contextual with a particular user journey. You're asking them how they're feeling, whether they can improve something, whether there's anything you can do to actually get things better. Normally, another option similar to that is kind of feedback widgets. So every now and then, when you've completed a particular journey or a particular engagement, you get a survey coming up where you can get some feedback, and it's non-intrusive. You might want to incentivize people to actually do a survey, offer a reward, a discount, a voucher, etc. And then they usually take the form of kind of a pop-up or something that comes up every now and then. Email, if you're actually harvesting emails from users, you might want to send out email surveys. Again, keep them short, slick, and just ask them what their engagement was like. Social media is also a very good place where you can put in kind of polls. You can put in some engaging stories and videos and then get some feedback through that. The other one also is, assuming it's a marketplace, you may have a community around that. So it might be that you want to actually offer people kind of a Discord group, a Reddit style forum or something like that, where people can actually engage from that perspective. And if it's a marketplace, I'm assuming that you've either got, I'm not sure if it's D2C or B2B or B2B2C, but again, there's different strategies that come with that as well. And then, and the last one, which is kind of more on the tech side, you might want to look at something like Hotjar or something like that, where you can actually replay sessions or kind of create heat maps to see where people actually kind of what they're focusing on and why. But those are the few which I can think of, just kind of based on that generic question that you've asked. Thank you.
Thanks, Jagdeep. Martin and then Mario, please.
Yeah, Jagdeep already mentioned Hotjar and some other things. So in addition to what he said, one of the things that you can do is create a sort of community of customers that are advisors, and they go to a publicly hosted weekly show and tell where you show new things and you ask for feedback, and you let people that attend drive decisions on what should come next, and so on. So that's very much doable if you have the top of the engaged community, and you could give them specific roles. They are like advisors, so if they now put something on the marketplace, you give them an unfair advantage that you list their stuff first. So if you help shape the product, you sell more on the marketplace, is one way of doing it. Another thing that you could also look into is A/B testing. So you sent 90% of your customers to the current version and 10%, for instance, to a new version, a new feature, and you measure if that new feature has advantages on how much is sold or whatever, and as such you roll it out. So and then you can also do ChatGPT is doing, show two responses, for instance, and ask people which one they like most. So there's multiple ways to get real-time feedback.
Yes, Mario.
Okay, and just, I mean, guys covered everything related to tooling and all of that, but I would focus on this one line where the founder said something like struggling to get responses from users, and I think that's the maybe key thing here. And I don't think they're struggling because they're not able to set up proper tooling, because tooling is kind of trivial. You just put tool to collect feedback on apps, and Google had 75 tools, and you could take any of them and just put it there and it's gonna work, right? But the question is more fundamental, I feel, is around why they're not giving feedback, right? Does it mean they're not engaging enough? Because most people, I don't ever give feedback. I never leave reviews, right? So most users won't give feedback. So is it the thing of you have 5 users on the platform, then you're not getting any feedback because there's just not enough people there to receive feedback, right? Or is it because they use the app and there's engagement and they're not leaving feedback, but they do everyone's give one feedback which is actual usage of the app. So there's the most honest feedback out there. There's any other type of feedback, they might lie, they might try to be nice, And by the way, that's why you don't ask family what they think about your your product idea, right? Because you're gonna get amazing feedback all the time, and that's not useful. So founder is kind of shepherd of their users. So you take them where you think they should go, they should want to go, they would want to go, right? And how they use the app, it's already enough feedback for you to get the idea of, you know, how they feel about it. And you know, that's oftentimes enough. If you just watch enough sessions, if you think spend enough time thinking about how they engage, thinking about what kind of engagement you get there, what they do, how they do it, you know, there's always kind of feedback coming. You know, like support tickets are feedback. You know, someone sending emails, oh, I cannot log in, that's feedback, right? So I'm not buying that idea of they're not giving feedback. They do giving feedback, if not nothing else, by support and by actually using the app. And that should be enough for you, especially when you're early on, to have a good idea about what's going on there. And there's no tool to replace thinking for you, right? So there's no tools that, oh, you just put a tool and give me answers, you know. And the best answers, then they might give you answers, but they're not going to give you questions, right? And best questions coming from a founder, just kind of going through that flows 100 times in their mind, and just getting a feel for what's going on in their app. And no tool can give you that. You just need to do it on your own, and then tools can assist you. And there's like gazillions of tools, and they're all nice and shiny, and you can use any of them. But that kind of mental effort of you understanding your users' life cycle, your users' flow through the app, then you just need to internalize it yourself, and there's no way around it, in my opinion.
Thank you very much to you as well, Mario. Thanks to all three of you. We now have only 22 minutes to go, so we're going to go to a couple more questions. By the way, if you're tuning in via our live streams, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. Quickest way to do that is go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. You find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 153. And if you need help building your early stage product or tech, then you click join. A quick registration gets you a link to your email. You then join via that link. When you're here, simply type your question, drop it in the chat, and I'll give you the mic to ask the panelists. By the way, today we're taking questions on anything to do with product and tech. So, I don't know, let's say product roadmap design, UX basically, prototypes, low to no codes, landing pages, building apps, full stack, testing, launching your MVP, and anything in between or beyond for that matter. This is the place to be. There are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. If, however, you've got questions on other matters, please save them for the other conversations we host. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month, it's UK startup law, and third Friday of the month, it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you're there, why not join our WhatsApp communities, groups of founders, investors, and operators? But now let's go quickly through a few questions. There's only 20 minutes to go. Our next one is about a EdTech startup in Leeds who's using APIs to pull in educational content from various sources. And then he goes on to say that we're struggling with maintaining consistency in data flows. How can we build an API architecture that supports scalability and ensures consistent data quality across multiple integrations? Perhaps we can start with Martin, then Mario, and then Jagdeep. Take it away, fellas.
Yeah, so integrating multiple systems and managing the data coming out of that is something that like is challenging, but it's also something that like lots of companies have solutions for. So fully integrated data platforms are available. They're both available as like cloud services, products, or open source. You just have to like go to the three top clouds and check what of those tools you can use. But like there's AWS AppSync, there's like everybody has their Microsoft Azure Data Factory and so on. Then there's ETL tools as well. You have the Pentahos of this world, the MuleSofts, and then you have integration as a service. Boomi comes to mind. So NiFi from Apache is open source. So there's many tools in that space that you can use. So I wouldn't go and build something myself. I would just test quickly which of those works for you.
Thank you very much. And Martin and the others here, if you mention any tools, although I'm not keen on doing advertising or kind of doing adverts for others without them paying, but they may be useful to our listeners. So feel free to then type them in the comments of our LinkedIn live stream, please. I have tagged all three of you there. So I would appreciate it if you just make a note of them and put them in the comments for those that will be watching the recording. Mario?
Yeah, okay, so I think we covered tooling, right? So the general problem here is that you have, you need multiple data sources. They have different fields, different properties, right? Different qualities, and then on you need to integrate them somehow and present them in a single place, right? And regardless of the tools, some knowledge on the data architecture there comes handy, because then what you need to do, you need to if you have 20 different data sources, then you need to express them in a way that they work for you, right? So you need to kind of abstract them away in some data structure that are you able to express all those 20 different data sources as a let's say a single entity, right? So there's some data transformation going in, and there's tools to do that. But for something that has to be scalable, that has to support potentially multiple sources, it's not trivial work to do, right? It's not trivial work to kind of think it through in a correct way, regardless of the tools, because tools at the end they help you, but you need to understand how you're going to utilize them, right? So if this founder happens to find themselves in a position to hire for this role, I would advise, on that interview, just to go say, okay, like we have Zapier, or we have I don't know, make.com. How would you, my potential hire, how would you make platform like Zapier that talks to 100 different sources and present them through the single interface? And that could be a good question to see, like, if that person that you want to hire to help you with this task are able to kind of internalize or understand how they would go about your project.
Jagdeep, are you with us?
Yes, I am. So I think before I would go into the details of tooling, etc., I think there's a few questions which should have been asked, or which should be part of that initial kind of explanation, which is, what are you actually doing with the data, or what kind of data are you actually dealing with? What are the kind of users that you're trying to fulfill? What is the volume of the data that you're dealing with? Who's consuming the data? How are they consuming it? Are you dealing with various data privacy levels, if you're in the education space, for example? What's the rate of change of data? Is the data consistent? What is the quality of the data like across all these different sources that you're dealing with? API architectures are kind of de facto anyway now, so that's shouldn't be an issue as to whether you use APIs or not. I think it's more important also to understand the nature of the source integrations. Are you dealing with API integrations externally? Are you dealing with a batch upload, manual upload? Are you looking at near to real-time injection of data? Are you pushing the data? Are you pulling the data from these various sources? Do you have data maps for the sources that are coming in? So there's a ton of questions that you want to ask yourself before you start designing that kind of architecture. But typically, again, from a generic perspective, one is if you're looking at scalability, these are just some general principles, is introduce an API gateway in future that will allow you to manage your traffic, authentication, rates, logging, etc. And there's a ton out there, open source and paid. You may want to look at normalizing incoming data. So typically what you do is create abstraction layers, and you would have kind of what I would call a content adapter API. So the idea is that depending on the content that you're dealing with, it basically standardizes that data before it's injected into the architecture. If you're dealing with data coming from multiple sources, you definitely want to make sure it's validated. It maps to a data semantic dictionary in some shape or form, and you're also cleaning it as well if need be, either on the fly, or you can use ETL or ELT tools. So you're essentially transforming that data depending on how you want to inject it into your storage or your architectures. Again, without knowing what you actually want to do with the data, it's very difficult to understand how you want to manipulate that data and what you want to do with it. Messaging queues are a good way to go if you're looking at scalability. So again, there's a ton of messaging queue platforms out there that will allow you kind of to do a lot of work asynchronously as well. So you can run multiple tasks in parallel. And another one is definitely in data-centric architectures. You want to make sure that at any point in time, your architecture can be monitored, and you've got observability across all the API ecosystem errors, and the monitoring can be done with a ton of different tooling out there. ELK stack is very common, Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog, there's a ton out there as well. You also want to make sure as part of your scalability that all your APIs are version controlled and they have good documentation against that. And nowadays, when you're dealing with the data architecture, especially in the world of AI, etc., and hacking, you want to make sure that all your integrations are secure. In other words, you've done secure handshakes before your APIs are exchanging any information back and forth. Again, you may want to consider that in the world of data, that you want to make sure that you also have good visualization into the quality of the data, where the data is coming from and how. And again, you can dashboard this and kind of visualize it in various ways. So those would be some generic principles. If you want to know more, just drop me a message on LinkedIn. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And as well, Jagdeep, if you don't mind, these tools, if you want to put them in the comments of our LinkedIn live stream, hopefully others will find them useful when they listen to the recording. Let's go on to, let's see if we can answer two questions. We've got one from somebody who's here already and one that was sent in. So let's take them in that order. So, sorry, in the same order that they're in the chat, I meant. So this one was sent in as well. I'm one of 4 co-founders of an AI-driven language learning platform in Sheffield, and we're eager to test new features quickly. But our prototyping process is slow and costly. What framework could we establish to accelerate prototyping, ensuring we can test ideas efficiently without overburdening our small team? How do we set benchmarks to validate these prototypes for their potential to move to development? By the way, Jagdeep, I see you typing. If you don't mind, I was hoping you can type them in the LinkedIn chat. Sorry, in the LinkedIn comments. So there's, I've tagged you on LinkedIn, and there's a live stream that is going on now on LinkedIn. If you find on your news feed or notifications feed rather, and Martin has already typed a comment there. So on this question, I've just looked at them online on LinkedIn. I can only see 3 people in this company, although you said one of 4 co-founders. But anyway, so it looks quite a small team anyway. Maybe we can start with Mario, then Jagdeep, then Martin, and if we can keep it about a minute each or something, and then go on to the last question. Mario?
Yeah, there's a lot of co-founders here, so I hope they contribute, right? So 4 co-founders, that's a lot, but yeah, okay. So prototyping process is slow and costly, right? That's because prototyping process is slow and costly, right? That's just nature of life, and generally software is expensive, right? And people don't realize that. People think like, oh, software is, it was never cheaper, let's call it that way, but it's still expensive. It went from crazy, ridiculously expensive to just being expensive, right? And maybe it's gonna get cheap at some point, and very affordable, but maybe it's still not there. We're still not there. So prototyping will be slow and will be costly, and test ideas efficiently. Then if you're small, you're just starting out, then you cannot afford to test a lot of ideas, right? So then you need good hunch or good feedback on what you're gonna build, right? Because you're gonna have 100 possible things to build, and you can build only 2 of them. And maybe if you really make it super fast and become very productive with a high velocity team, which is rarely the case, especially for small startups, then maybe instead of 2 things you can build 4 things, right? But it's still going to be 96 or 296 things that you cannot build. So you need to choose what are you building, and choosing what you're not going to build, what you're going to build, it's the core of what 4 of you guys should be doing, right? And that comes, you get a bit of data, a bit of hunch, a bit of I don't know, investment feedback or whatever, like that thing coming from, and that knowledge coming from different place, right? And we cannot talk about it now. And you need to reduce what you're building, and just ship it, right? Like early stage startup is a you don't need, oh, let's A/B test, let's just ship it, and then you decide what is going to be there. It's not working, then you remove it, put something else on, then you ship it. Just put those ideas out there. It doesn't matter if they fail, because you're still trying to prove that you're going to survive. So like whatever you do, you cannot screw it up. Like you just build it, ship it. It's not working, remove it, build something else, ship it. But don't expect to test 5 different ideas at the same time and running through experiments and then making decision. Oh, this is working, this is not working. That's not happening for small budget teams. Instead, pick your best features, pick your best thing that you think is gonna make the change for you, and ship it, and then ship another thing. And some of those things will work, some of those things won't work, but that's all good. It's just life of a startup, I guess.
Thank you, Maya. Yes, Martin. Sorry, it was Jagdeep, actually. My bad. Jagdeep, and then Martin, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. So a few things from my side. First question would be what is a prototype, and what is your definition of a prototype? Is it something that is eye candy? Because some people may consider a Figma design as a prototype. In other words, you can click it through, but it doesn't do much else. Are you looking at something that actually has some AI integration, or have you actually integrated with anything in the back end? In which case, it's slightly more functional. Are you just dealing with something that's a bit in the middle? So you may want to use, I don't know, something like Lovable or something else to create prototypes. So I think the question would be, what is your definition of a prototype, and how complex is that? Also, what are the numbers you're trying to test against? Because if you're dealing with 5 or 6 people you're testing your prototype against versus 50 versus 100 versus 200, that will also dictate what you use and how you actually create that prototype and how you accelerate that. Timescales, I don't know what you mean by fast, or any conversely, I don't know what you mean by slow. It varies depending on industry, sector, what you're trying to achieve, services, products, etc. So I think it's important to understand what you mean by slow and costly, and where would you like to head. So I think that's important as well before you select a framework. What kind of audience are you dealing with? Are you dealing with people who are kind of generic audience? Are your users tech savvy? Are they newbies? So depending on that, you may decide what stack you want to use to actually create that prototype. Some platforms require people to be slightly more tech savvy to test prototypes, some less savvy as well. So that's very important to understand. I'm assuming your product is an app in some shape or form, or a kind of a website. And again, related to that is the complexity of what you're trying to build. How complex is your feature set? What does your MVP look like? And again, that will dictate the kind of platform you use to actually create this prototype in the first place. Some platforms allow you to do more complex prototyping, others less so. The fact that you've used the term prototyping also may assume that you want to throw this away and you're just validating ideas versus creating an MVP. So again, we don't know about that either, but that will also dictate the nature of what you build and how you build it. And if you're validating something, obviously you need an acceptance criteria, and this could be functional or non-functional. So the question is, are you validating the function of your prototype in terms of, in other words, what it actually does? Or are you also looking at non-functional aspects? In other words, things like scalability, security, etc., personalities of systems. And my last point, just to kind of give you an example, you could look at, depending on what you answered around my questions. There's a ton of products and platforms and ways to actually build these prototypes. Again, depending on all the questions I've asked, you could look at no-code platforms, low-code platforms. You may want to look at Figma and Figma prototyping. There's also other tools out there like LangChain and Streamlit for doing slightly more complex things as well, and demos. So I think the tooling is where you actually build the prototype and how. I think that's the easy bit. I think the more kind of difficult bit to narrow the tooling down would be to get those questions answered.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Martin, please.
Yes, I think focus on the problem and get something visual that you can click through. Jagdeep already mentioned Figma. There's now, if you're in the AI space, things like Lovable, which basically allow you to just put a prompt and then get like apps generated. So potentially you could use those type of things to very quickly get something that you can show to customers. You get their feedback from the people having the problem, and then is how you actually validate that there's some mileage in something. So if you are getting feedback that your product doesn't have this or doesn't have that, and it stops customers from using it, or it basically stops from monetizing more, then those are the type of things to focus on, and you can use all of these things. And then afterwards, once you know what you want, it's very important that you can then like automate deployment. Things like DevOps can be there, that potentially you can introduce feature flags so that you can enable or disable a new feature if it's not yet for everybody, or A and B tests to see if like the new feature has the effect that you wanted, or you still have to work on it before everybody gets it.
Thank you very much. And if we have time, we've got a question in the chat. Tanya, I have unmuted you. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself and fire away with that question? Can you hear me, Tanya?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Take it
Hello,
away,
hi.
please.
So hi, I'm Tanya. So yeah, I'm just at the moment just working on a new startup. So it's linked to I'm a holistic therapist first and foremost. So yeah, it's linked to the health and well-being sector. And I am working on like developing like a massage candle, right? It's more so going to be have like aromatherapy qualities, yes, but also specifically designed for therapeutic spaces. So whether it's like massage practitioners can use it, it will be like health and well-being like pop-ups and stuff like that as well. It can be used within like workshops for therapists and all that stuff, right? So at the moment, obviously, in terms of like the products that I'm looking to use, they're quite natural and staying away from any like allergenic products. But I'm just kind of like really wondering what the best way to go about creating a prototype for the product in itself and go about testing. it has obviously like the dermatological like nature and stuff. So I'm just like, do I need to, is there anything legally that I need to have? Do I need to, you know, yeah, how would I approach that basically?
Thank you very much. Couple of quick things, if I may, Tanya.
Yeah, of
Number
course.
one, are these candles simply to be lit, or are they to be placed on people's bodies and what have you?
So they would have both functions. If you want to use them for the aromatherapy aspect of it, that's absolutely fine. You can just light it and, you know, it can just be eye candy. However, the actual melted wax can also actually be used for massage. So it would actually be going on,
Okay.
yeah, it would actually be going on skin, yeah.
I hear. Okay. I don't know if the others want to add anything. First and foremost, I am not an expert at this, although many moons ago I did take a massaging course.
Amazing.
A very long time ago. But one thing I can tell you is that this is quite a regulated field, and you definitely want to speak to somebody who knows about the substances and the ingredients you need to use.
Okay.
I'm not saying, because you can't get this approved on the NHS. Well, you probably could at some point, but the idea is initially anyway. So you would definitely need to find somebody who knows about those ingredients and substances and test them. Two, start testing them on yourself before you actually go somewhere else. And three, just you'll need to have some other people that will be testing this. What I would do is actually reach out to universities that are working on similar stuff, because you've got all kinds of courses out there, right? So the ones that work on some chemical stuff, or maybe therapy and so on, and see if you can find cooperation there, because one, you can do things much cheaper, if not for free, with them. Two, they've got the scientific backgrounds and expertise that otherwise you'd have to spend a ton of money. That's what I would do. I would focus on those, and maybe, you know, look at some public sector like Innovate UK, or where are you based, Tanya?
I'm in London.
Perfect. Look at Grow London. They have some good places that they can perhaps signpost you to. These are the things I would focus on. I don't know if Mario, Martin, or Jagdeep would like to add anything here. Well, I think we've lost Jagdeep, but Mario, Martin, any thoughts?
Thank you, Anton, by the way.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we're dealing with software here, so all that actually touches real world, for at least for me, it's completely different reality. So yeah.
Indeed. No worries. Martin, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I was going to say a similar thing, like as you have to get a legal expert first to validate, and then I would work with like a panel of like salons or whatever that like can give you feedback that like potentially are willing to test it out with like friendly users if they see an immediate value and so on. But again, only after you tried it on yourself and showed to them that it actually works better.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you very much to both of you. So, yes, Tanya, my advice, which a bit in line with Martin's as well, start with universities, and then at the same time look at various well-being salons that you can start talking to them about this, because this is definitely something you don't want to start spending money, or let alone putting it in the market without getting the kind of the reasonable stamps that you need, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I hope that helps, Tanya.
That helps a great bunch. Thank you so much.
Best of luck, and thank you for joining us. Right here, I've kept you now 5 minutes over the line, gentlemen. Before I let you go, do you have any parting words for us, or you fed up already and you just want to move on? Martin, Mario?
Build for like problems that really people are asking for, and you can easily go and get large groups of people excited. But like as I said, only after. So find that problem fall in love with the problem, and then go and chase it. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Martin. Mario?
What to add to this? I think time is coming for domain expert with a bit help of AI, of technology, to build great stuff, because there's a lot of industries that are not digitalized, that are still operating on pen and paper level of technology. And I like seeing some of those questions coming to us every week. Absolutely.
And just to touch on that, I am quite a huge fan. There are so many businesses, what some people refer to as mom and pop businesses, but a lot of baby boomers who've had some amazing businesses over the years. They are not digitalized, let alone in the age of AI. And a lot of these people are now about to hang their boots because it's time to retire. These businesses can make so much difference if somebody comes in with a bit of money and knowledge in AI and the digital world, that you could make a killing. Well, thank you very much to everyone that tuned in today. Those of you that did it via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, remember, we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do have any questions for us, you'll need to join us next time live on Microsoft Teams. The quickest way to do that, or the best way to do that, is simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, then look for our or whichever session you want to join. Click join. It's a quick registration that gets you a link to your email, and then you can join us via that. We run 6 regular events: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, as you can see today, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of each month UK startup law, and third Friday of each month UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And like I said, you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you're there, you might want to join our WhatsApp community. We've got groups of founders, investors, and operators that may suit you. As far as my parting words are concerned, just remember, the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime, but be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Growth. We've got some amazing growth experts, and that is at 12 p.m. UK time. Thanks again, and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.